What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
It's not fleeing, it's a strategic retreat. The word escape isn't even in my vocabulary.
No one around seemed inclined to humor Veldora's grandiose claim. If Velgrind or others had been present, they likely would have worn amused smiles, ready to subject him to a lengthy 3-hour lecture. Despite this, Veldora eventually explained his actions.
Well, one of the reasons is that I wanted to see just how strong I've become.
Dagruel couldn't deny it, Veldora had indeed grown more powerful.
Also, if I were to run away, both Ruminez and Xian would be wiped out. I simply can't let that happen.
Why? Why would you go so far as to risk your life for Ruminez and humanity?
Dagruel's question cut to the core of Veldora's determination. Depending on how Veldora responded, Dagruel would need to decide on his own course of action. Yet Veldora's reply only left Dagruel more baffled.
Because Rimuru will get mad. You know, Dagruel, Rimuru is absolutely terrifying when he's angry.
With that, Veldora burst into booming laughter, as if the thought itself amused him. Dagruel finally understood, Veldora had no intention of backing down.
I see. That means you've finally taken responsibility for your own actions.
Dagruel acknowledged Veldora's growth. Realizing this, he decided to face Veldora with his full strength.
Fine. I accept your challenge, and I'll fight you seriously, no matter how long it takes.
Since Veldora wouldn't retreat, Dagruel saw no choice but to overpower him. The battle would now hinge on endurance. Whoever drained their opponent's energy first would claim victory. Though a decisive move could end things abruptly, Dagruel had already unleashed his most potent technique. The wiser strategy now was to gradually weaken Veldora. Dagruel's fighting spirit surged. His colossal form, towering over 20 meters tall, began to shrink rapidly.
What?
Dagruel reverted to his regular size, standing just under 25 meters. However, his body began to crackle with lightning, its appearance transforming into something that radiated an overwhelming density of compressed energy.
This is something completely different.
That's right. This form surpasses titanification and is known as supergodification. It's a state I once struggled to control, but thanks to you, I've mastered it.
What?
Veldora stood there, utterly perplexed, unable to recall anything that might explain Dagruel's words. Dagruel, however, spoke without hesitation, as if he had no intention of keeping it a secret.
I want to learn how to train and control my Yuki. Is it something like, managing your anger will make you stronger?
Hearing this, Veldora's memory clicked into place. He recalled showing Dagruel the sacred scriptures, comics, and bragging about the wisdom he'd gleaned from them. He had shared his immense power with Dagruel during one of their many conversations. Although the exact details of their exchange escaped him, what mattered now was clear: Dagruel had achieved remarkable stability in his strength. The ability to shift from casual banter to an intense combat-ready state was undeniably impressive. Even though Dagruel had returned to his normal size, his presence was still that of an Ashura. The energy surging from his body was far more intimidating than when he had been in his giant form. Initially, Veldora intended to end the confrontation there. But sensing the resolve emanating from Dagruel, he chose to rise to the challenge.
Ah, Dagruel, you've truly mastered it. If my advice has helped you refine your power, then it's only right for you to be my opponent.
With that, Veldora also initiated his own transformation, taking on a human form while concentrating his energy. He adjusted his size to perfectly match Dagruel's at 25 meters. While physical size could represent strength for spirit-based life forms, the true measure of power lay in energy density. A punch infused with energy compressed to its absolute limit could obliterate anything, even a body fortified with the same level of energy. The two combatants locked eyes, their mutual intent crystal clear. Then they moved simultaneously. A supernatural battle had begun. A fierce and calculated struggle unfolded from the clash of two colossal beings. What began as a display of skill quickly descended into an all-out brawl. Dagruel's fist landed with crushing force against Veldora's stomach, while at the same time, Veldora drove his elbow directly into Dagruel's face. In this battle, retaliation was the only rule. If you were struck, you struck back just as hard. Though the fight had no official structure, it followed the relentless rhythm of professional wrestling. Blow for blow, kick for kick, neither combatant showed any sign of retreating. Every attack delivered seemed to echo back with equal intensity, as though the fighters themselves were absorbing the brunt of their own strikes. The battleground shifted constantly. The two adversaries fought in the skies, on the ground, and in deserts where their blows sent shockwaves across the landscape. The fight would then escalate to high altitudes, even extending beyond the atmosphere at times. For beings made entirely of energy like Veldora and Dagruel, the environment was irrelevant. Whether they fought on solid ground or in the void, their power remained the same. They didn't rely on the earth to amplify their strength. Instead, they turned their own bodies into devastating projectiles, bombarding each other with ultra-compressed energy. Both warriors expertly expelled the energy they absorbed from attacks, minimizing the risk of catastrophic injuries. The key to victory lay in managing their energy reserves, losing as little of their own as possible while draining their opponent. Each strike they exchanged carried such destructive force that even the mightiest Majin could have been annihilated by a single blow. Those who observed the battle remained paralyzed within the confines of the barrier, unable to intervene or act rashly. Though Veldora and Dagruel were no longer in their massive forms, the sheer energy radiating from their clash was staggering.
It's incredible.
Ruminez murmured in awe. The ongoing battle between Veldora and Dagruel continued to wreak havoc on their surroundings, leaving a trail of unparalleled destruction. Ruminez felt a pang of bitterness, but deep down, she understood there was nothing she could do to change the situation.
There's nothing we can do,
she admitted to herself. That was her honest assessment. After all, they were up against the Mad King, Dagruel, the god of destruction. The battlefield was lined with towering lightning pillars that instantly reduced anyone who touched them to ash. The layers of defense barriers that once safeguarded the holy city had already been rendered useless. The city's ancient protective walls, which had stood for countless years, were obliterated in an instant by the shockwave from Dagruel and Veldora's initial clash. It was almost poetic how effortlessly they crumbled, unable to withstand even a moment of the overwhelming force. With the walls destroyed, the monster intrusion prevention barrier was rendered ineffective. It had been designed to fend off low-level monsters, so it stood no chance against the might of true dragons and giant gods. The only remaining line of defense was the defense barrier, powered by the collective efforts of everyone, with Xian at the center of its activation. Every person involved was putting their life on the line to keep the barrier intact. It was nothing short of miraculous that they were still holding out. But it was clear to everyone that their time was running out. If the barrier failed, their survival would end swiftly, and the destruction would inevitably spread to the city center. The only reason this hadn't happened yet was due to Veldora's efforts to control the situation as much as he could. Acknowledging this, Ruminez continued her thoughts aloud.
Veldora seems to have matured a little. He's protecting us in his own way.
Xian nodded enthusiastically in agreement.
Absolutely. Veldora-sama is truly amazing.
Her eyes shone with sincere admiration.
It's impressive, isn't it? They're keeping Dagruel from directly striking us.
Ultima's assessment of the situation was spot on, capturing the precarious balance they were all depending on. Gadra gave a nod of agreement.
Yes, that's right.
Though Ruminez was reluctant to admit it, she couldn't deny Veldora's prowess. It was clear even to her that Veldora had grown significantly. What truly puzzled her was how he managed to remain so composed in the midst of such a fierce, chaotic battle. Adelman and Alberto, too, seemed at a loss for words, silently observing Veldora's fight. Ruminez turned her gaze back to the epic confrontation unfolding in the sky. The combat was an extraordinary display of supernatural abilities, surpassing even what she could imagine. Joining such a battle, even for her, would be an act of sheer folly. And while she might have wanted to voice her complaints, there was no opportunity to do so. All they could do now was entrust their fate to Veldora and hope for the best, much like leaving their luck in the hands of the heavens. It wasn't her place to criticize, and truthfully, Ruminez found herself captivated by the battle. Despite its bloody and brutal nature, there was an undeniable beauty to it. The combatants appeared to be testing one another, pushing their limits in both strength and skill, and in doing so, they seemed to be evolving together. Veldora's techniques had become even sharper and more refined than when the fight began, clear evidence of his rapid improvement. The intensity of the battle continued to escalate. Beside Ruminez, Xian was watching just as intently, her focus unwavering. It wasn't surprising, Ruminez thought. After all, witnessing a battle of this magnitude was a once-in-a-millennium event. The sheer power and skill on display were an experience in themselves, and a clash between beings of such transcendence was an exceedingly rare spectacle. At some point, Basara, who had joined them to watch, made an offhand remark.
When did Veldora get this good at close combat? He's got 3 faces, 6 arms, and a whole arsenal of techniques.
To outsiders, it seemed unnatural that the two fighters were so evenly matched. But that was a misconception born of ignorance about Veldora. While Basara, having recently awakened from the seal, was unaware of the reason, both Ruminez and Shion understood the truth behind Veldora's growth.
In that labyrinth, he's been running wild under the pretense of training.
Ruminez remarked with a hint of sarcasm.
No, Ruminez. Veldora-sama is the commander of the Labyrinth Guardians. He works tirelessly every day to prove himself as the ultimate gatekeeper.
Shion responded passionately.
Labyrinth.
Basara asked, clearly puzzled.
Oh, you're not familiar with it, are you? In Ramrus's labyrinth, you can train endlessly and even come back to life after dying.
Ruminez replied.
What? That's completely unfair.
Basara complained. No one argued with his assessment, it was something they had all thought at one point. Veldora's intense training within the labyrinth had allowed him to develop his extraordinary skills. If that same training had taken place on the surface, the damage would have been catastrophic. However, in the controlled environment of the labyrinth, such destruction was manageable. Although some disruption to the labyrinth's structure had occurred recently, it was still ideal for combat training, especially against an opponent like Zijin. This rigorous practice was what had elevated Veldora's fighting abilities to elite levels. Already a formidable warrior, he had pushed beyond his limits, his strength and skills surging to new heights. Without his role in the Trinity, Veldora would have likely surpassed even Dagruel. Through this ongoing battle, he had also mastered how to counter highly mobile foes. His transformation was the embodiment of what it meant to be truly unstoppable. It was no wonder everyone was mesmerized. The relentless intensity of the fight seemed boundless, but eventually, the time for the final confrontation drew near. Veldora had meticulously laid the groundwork for his triumph long before the battle even began. He had been patiently waiting for the right moment. His training with Zijin and Ultima, coupled with mentoring the labyrinth's strongest fighters, had forged him into an even greater force. Close combat had always been his forte, and now, his refined skills made him a master.
A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. Jared Bressler, Speed Saber, Curtis Loban, Judah Herrera, Just a Guy, Miss L.W. Hernandez, Jason Martin, Zach Rosen, Jerry Sladek, Ray Perez, Jay, Donald Williams, Day of Light, John M, Godman Gaming, Markithian Tidwell, Adrian, Kumo, T. Bush, Kirisoto-sama, JV, Thomas, Joshua Cousins, Jose Hernandez, Khalid, Christian Deshazer, Divine C. Harris, Montyboy 98, Ruben, Yuki Iki, Gray, Isaac, Koala King 93, Quilly Buckner, Alver, Normal Defate, Joshua Andrade, Gary Miles, Dragon Spawn 666, J. Rule, Nate, Leiron Sangkap, Lucas Guet, Jason Martin, Sky T, Andre Hamilton, Martin Ramos, Emperor WSA, Miko Espinosa, George Hage, Gobi Lin, Pratik Bandari, Faiz Mansour, Jackson Early, Carl Stephen Bernadal, Gareth Hashimoto, Steven Madison, Marl Barsha, Ralph Ignacio, Efrain Hernandez, Luca Gaming WTF, William Locke, Kamal Luke, Akshay Devate, Elvin Quarty, Ian Sikibiol, Thanakorn Lee Sawat, KACP9R, The Harv, Drayden Yamauchi, Joshua Wolf. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.